The more innovative your fintech is, the harder it can be to sell to banks and credit unions. I know that sounds backwards. If you're a fintech founder, though, this might feel very familiar. You've built something genuinely better, faster, smarter, more efficient, and you get in front of a bank or credit union, you walk them through it, and they say, wow, this is really interesting. Or I've never heard of this or thought about this before. And then nothing happens. Instead, you start hearing things like, I don't know, this feels like something a bigger bank or credit union would do. Or we're not quite ready for this yet. Or the kiss of death, our customers aren't really asking for that. And eventually, let's circle back later. And that one feels like a stake through the heart to innovators, to people doing cool things for bankers. And at first, it's easy to think maybe we just need a better pitch. Maybe we need a stronger demo. Maybe we just haven't found the right person yet. But after a few of these conversations, you start to notice something. Smaller banks are pointing to larger banks as people you should talk to. Larger banks are pointing to smaller banks. Credit unions point to banks. Banks point to credit unions. And here you are in the middle. Everyone agrees it's a good idea. The problem is they just don't see themselves in your idea. And that's where things get interesting, at least for people like you and me. Because when something feels too new, too new, too novel, too innovative, people don't always lean in. More often, they step back. They step back, and here we are with our innovation. And they step back not because they don't like it, because they don't know how to work with it yet. And that's the tough thing for us to hear. If you think about how banks and credit unions operate, this actually makes a lot of sense. They are built to be heavily regulated. They're built to categorize. They're built to assign ownership and compare options and even to justify decisions internally with models and matrices and everyone being on the same page, at least generally, because that's how things move commonly inside an institution. That's definitely how things get approved. So when you show up with something innovative, you're not just introducing a better solution, you're introducing to them something that doesn't quite fit anywhere yet in their world. And if you zoom out, what's really happening is simple. Your product doesn't have a place in their mental model yet. It doesn't yet have a category. And this is something I have started noticing quite a bit. I call this situation you're finding yourself in the category conundrum. Because if bankers and credit union employees can't place you, they can't buy you. And once you start to look at it that way, through that lens, with that approach, a few patterns become really obvious. Now, the first one is how you're explaining what you do. You sound clear to you. Your website makes sense to you. You think you're outlining something really neat and earth shattering, and you're using new terms, but it's all very confusing to bankers. You've got this language you're using. You may have even paid people to help you come up with the language and the positioning on your website and in your materials. Everything sounds really polished. Everything looks great. But if you're using brand new language that truly only makes sense inside your world, you're saying things like, I know I've heard before, we're a next gen orchestration layer. Okay. Or things like, we're redefining real time decisioning. And in your head, that might be clear. It feels clear to you, but the banker is likely sitting there thinking, all right, what what does that actually mean? You're saying next gen orchestration is being thrown around and they're trying to translate this. They're trying to place you and categorize you. Is this a fraud system? Is this data? Is this core? Is this something else? And when they can't answer that question quickly, they don't push in. They don't ask you more questions. They tend not to challenge you. They nod. They say things like, that's interesting. It's really interesting. Or I hadn't thought about it like that before. And the conversation stalls. It just loses momentum because they can't connect what you're saying, or at least what you think you're saying, to their current world. So you might leave that conversation thinking, it went well. I got a chance to say everything I wanted to. I think I did a good job painting the picture. And then the bankers leave thinking, I don't even know what that was. And that gap right there, that's the category conundrum at play. And it's something that you may face. The second signal that may indicate you're in this category conundrum is that this isn't for us loop. It might sound like this is probably for bigger banks, or we're not ready for this yet. And to you, it sounds like timing or capability or knowledge within the organization, but it's not. Instead, it's likely more placement. These bankers, they don't know where it fits or who within the institution owns it or even how to move forward. They have no sense. And instead of saying something like, I don't know how this works here, or I'm not sure where to place this, they may say something like, this isn't for us, or let's circle back in a quarter to see where we are, or we have other priorities. All of those may be true, but it starts this bouncing around situation, and you start bouncing around the market, trying to find a new ICP because everyone is pointing somewhere else. And that is just a challenge. That's a challenge indicative of the creator conundrum. Now, the third signal may show up in your meetings when you realize you are teaching way more than you're selling. You're explaining, you're reframing, you're walking through the problem, you're evangelizing this problem and why it should be solved. All very important things. But if you're doing that in each conversation you progressively have, and you're not spending much time on what happens next in the sales cycle or how things get implemented or how we move the deal forward, it's a challenge. It's a signal. It's a signal that that institution or even the market's not ready for you yet. And at that point, you're not in a sales cycle. You're in a market education cycle. So what do you do with this? Well, from my seat, I've noticed that a few things can make a real difference when you are stuck in this creator and category conundrum. First, please consider changing where you start. It's our inclination to lead with what makes us different, what makes us better, why they should care. Instead, I'm going to challenge you to not lead with what makes you different. Start with what makes you familiar to those bankers. Tie it to a process they already run, or a problem they feel, or something they already recognize in their current state. Because if they can't connect you to one of those areas, they won't move. Second, I want to consider asking you to make the ownership of your solution more obvious. And one of the fastest ways to stall a deal is having no clear owner or champion, especially if your solution spans multiple business units. So don't leave it open. Say things like, this usually sets here with this group. Because in that way, you're not explaining your product as much as you're helping them make a decision, a decision around how to move forward with you as a potential partner. Now, third, how you can find your way and claw your way out of this creator conundrum, teach them how to evaluate you. If there's no category for you or what you do or what you've built, there's no scorecard. So give these bankers one. What should they compare? Who should they compare you to? Or what 2 or 3 or 4 other companies could you potentially replace or solutions? What matters? What does success look like? Because if they don't know how to evaluate it, they just won't. And I have been spending a lot of time on this as I get ready for a keynote in May, because this shows up way more than most founders expect. And it's something that I've only recently put this name and this concept to. And once I've started seeing this category creator conundrum, I'm starting to recognize it in multiple conversations that I'm having. Now, I'm going to go deeper into what this actually looks like to work your way out of this, because trust me, folks, you can.